And we are here live. It's Terry Levine, and today I brought back a very special guest because the last time that I had this guest, we had such a great response. And many of you asked me for more information and further inquiries. And so I went to Tanner Smith, who is my guest today, and said, would you come back again? Would you create even more value? And for those of you who don't know and aren't familiar, I'll just kick us off. By the way, in the chat, let us know who's watching, where you're watching from, say hey, hey. So just very quickly, Tanner has been working with Heartrepreneur for quite a while now. He is kind of the secret juice. Hi, Sandy, behind TNT, behind so many of the cool things that we're doing at Heartrepreneur. And he is just, I think, a genius at what he does. And so he has this atomic system. And I've asked him to introduce part of that today. So I'm going to turn it over to Tanner.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Terry. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, so some of you guys are tuning in and watching. You might have seen the last Facebook Live that we did. I kind of talked about the atomic system a little bit and just kind of a broad overview and a broad introduction into what it is, how it works. This really has been the behind the scenes secret sauce to all of Terry's launches and her products. And it's been really great so far. I think Terry, last time she said that we did $42,000 on the Modern Coaching Method launch. And yeah, so I'm excited to share something with you guys today. So today we're going to focus on the Atomic Webinar. And that is one of the, you can call it the pillars of the my atomic system. Here's the reason why. For most of you who have done webinars in the past, you spend a lot of time trying to get traffic there. You may spend a lot of time perfecting the offer that you're going to sell on the webinar. And the Atomic Webinar is designed to get you moving, get the rubber to the road quickly, and trying to validate your offer before you sell it. So we always want to make sure that we start with doing live webinars before we ever turn it evergreen. So you guys have heard me say that before. We always want to validate and test before we just launch and take it evergreen. Now, going evergreen is the goal, but we want to make sure that we're testing the offer stack, the audience, the targeting, the messaging, and what we're actually talking about on the live webinars before we ever turn them evergreen. So I've prepared a little worksheet for you guys. I'm actually going to share my screen. We're going to go over it. I'm going to talk to you about the behind the scenes, kind of my secret sauce on how to create awesome webinars that convert like gangbusters. So let's go and share my screen. And I'm going to share my entire screen for you guys here. And perfect. Can you guys see my screen okay? I can't see the comments. So Terry, you let me know if people can't see it okay.
All good. All good. Perfect.
So, this Atomic Webinar was kind of built on the backbone of a guy named Russell Brunson's, he's got something called the Perfect Webinar. And for those of you that might have heard of Russell Brunson before, he's the founder of ClickFunnels. He does a lot of webinars. He has a background in speaking from live stages. So he kind of took that background that he had in speaking from big stages and selling at live events, and he kind of converted it over into what he calls his perfect webinar. Now, I've kind of taken that, and after implementing a lot of my own webinars over the years, I've found that you can condense everything that he talks about and everything that I found in an effective webinar into really 5 steps, because you don't want to get too crazy. You don't want to have it be too complex. It can be very overwhelming. And so I like to try to simplify it as much as possible. So a couple key points when you're getting started, when you're building out your first Atomic Webinar, is to not stress. I say the goal of your first webinar is just to do it, just to go live, just to make it happen. Don't worry about spending a ton of money or a ton of effort and energy trying to market it and promote it. The goal is just to do it. And I've got another famous saying, done is the new perfect. So this is a process of refinement. Nobody's going to ever perfectly nail it on the first try. There's no such thing as a perfect webinar, in my opinion. So I don't like the title of Russell Brunson's Perfect Webinar, because you can always improve. So, it's just meant to get you off the ground and running. So first things first, what we want to do when we start a webinar off, and you've probably seen a lot of webinars, a lot of different presentations, you want to grab attention. You want to build rapport. So I always like to kick it off with a little bit of a story, tell people about my day, something that I'm going through, something that's going to be memorable and a little bit different. Now you can do this in a ton of different ways. Some people will like be dancing, have music in the background. They'll have a very engaging chat box for first 5 minutes, but you want to do whatever is in line with your personality, and you just want to grab attention and build rapport there. Make sure that the first 5 minutes are especially engaging, because that's when the majority of people are going to drop off. In about the first 5 to 15 minutes, you're going to see a huge chunk of people that are just coming in and people that are also dropping off. So it's important to grab that attention, build that rapport out of the gates, make people feel like you've got a ton of high energy. If you haven't gone live before and done a lot of live webinars, what you got to keep in mind is you have to make it feel like you're 200% energy level. Like right now on this camera, I feel like I'm being crazy over the top energetic, and it probably doesn't feel that way, but it's because you're going to come off, the camera's going to accentuate your energy. So if you've got a little bit of low energy, being on camera, it's going to feel even lower energy. If you've got high energy, it's going to make you feel even higher. Now, the step 2, and we're going to talk about all of this, but this is what I call the origin story. A lot of people have heard the phrase hero's journey or hero story. Essentially, you want to introduce this topic or this thing that you're going to teach them. And this is essentially where you would share the story of how you came to learn this new opportunity, this new skill, this newfound knowledge that you are sharing and teaching your audience. After you do that and they understand your origin story and they recognize and they see themselves in you, then you want to break and rebuild their false beliefs using what Russell Brunson calls the 3 secrets. And, these can be 3 insights, 3 keys, 3, discoveries. They don't have to be 3 secrets, but that's kind of a very popular term that a lot of people in the webinar space will use. After that, step number 4 is we then offer stack, and we want to position our offer correctly. So if done correctly, right, what happens is we grab their attention. We then build some rapport with them in the first 5 minutes. We tell an origin story. We get them to connect with us emotionally. Human beings, we're very emotional creatures. We love to hear stories. After we do that, then we're going to break and rebuild all of their false beliefs. So if they have things that are keeping them in the way, we want to smash those. And then eventually we're going to now say, hey, the offer that I'm going to present to you is the solution in helping you basically take those limiting beliefs that you've just smashed and now accelerate that process to go from point A to point B where you want to go. And then you just close, right? There's a lot of different closing techniques, a lot of things that you can do to help close the sale. I actually like live Q&A sessions, especially when you're doing live calls. That gives you really good feedback in real time of where people are at. If you maybe haven't been clear in your presentation or your pitch, if there are some parts that you feel like maybe need to be explained better, you're going to see a lot of questions that are resonating and telling you that you need to do a part of the webinar better. So let's talk about this. Step number 1, grab attention, build rapport. Here's kind of my bullet list, quick, get straight into it that might help you with your own webinar. So presenter introduction, introduce who you are, introduce the name of the webinar, talk about the goals and the objectives that you want to have accomplished. One thing that you can also do is, hook to the end is what it's referred to. So you say, hey, listen, for those of you that stick to the end, or for those of you that watch this whole presentation, showed up live, at the end, I'm going to give you something special of value. Could be a free gift, could be a free download, could be, maybe a consulting call, could be something that they find very valuable. That's going to help, keep that attention, keep people there the whole time. And this is another thing that I've found works really well. And, you don't really find this anywhere. It's something that I've just kind of tested a lot is in the beginning of the webinar, you want to establish some of the problems that people are facing, right? You want to also relate that back to the viewers and tell them that it hasn't been their faults. You want to let them off the hook. So, if you're teaching people how to, save money on their taxes, and they've maybe been getting ripped off on their taxes for years and years and years, and they could have been saving a lot more money. You don't want to make them feel bad about it and say, listen, if you didn't know this, you've been losing all this money, blah, blah, blah. You want to relate to them in a way that's very empathetic and say, listen, if you've been doing this That's okay. You're just like most people. You're not a tax expert. You're not supposed to know these things. That's okay. Nobody ever taught you how to do this. There was no knowledge or resources or insights given to you that allowed you to kind of know how to do these things, which is why you're here today and why we're going to dive into how to help you do your taxes and save a lot more money. That's just a little example, kind of a stupid example, but you want to make sure that you're letting your viewers off of the hook. Now, let's talk about the origin story. Ultimately, the origin story answers the question, why should I listen to you, right? Why are you teaching this? Because every single prospect is going to be asking those questions. They might be on the webinar. You might have done a great job getting them there, but ultimately, they're still going to be kind of feeling you out in the very beginning of your webinar, and you need to establish that authority and answer that question very strongly and firmly. So if they're asking, why should I listen to this guy or why should I listen to this person? You should provide them with strong evidence that you've been where they've been, you have accomplished what they're looking to accomplish. You are the guy, you're the person that can help them get to where they want to be. Another key point is you want to get your viewers emotionally engaged. So I talk about emotions a lot. I play on emotions a lot. People are going to say, okay, I see now, I want to keep watching. This is where that story really comes in and connects with them emotionally, because you're going to have kind of an oh crap moment where you made mistakes, where you kind of had to figure it out on your own. You had maybe a moment of epiphany where you had a major breakthrough, and, people can essentially relate to you and say, that person was once where I'm at. Now I can take this information, take this knowledge, take these secrets, and not have to do it the hard way like they had to do it. I can now skip to the easy way. And the easy way is going to be those 3 secrets. So you can see the way that the origin story kind of plays out. It first answers the question why they should listen to you, gets them emotionally engaged in the webinar, gets them resonating with your story, helps them to put themselves in your shoes. And then you essentially show them that there's a better way to do it. They don't have to go through the hard way. They can go and do it the easy way. And then that ties into the transition. So a couple things here that, before we move on to step 3 that I would kind of hit on is that you want to get vulnerable. The more vulnerable you can be in your origin story, the more, I can say, uncomfortable you can get, the better it's actually going to be. People love things that feel raw, that feel authentic and feel genuine. And, we've all been on webinars, or we've all been in presentations, or, in different scenarios where, there's more to the story, but for whatever reason, you can feel like there are some walls up and they're not giving you exactly everything that you need to know or would like to know. And it makes it tough for them to kind of meet you halfway. So if you can get vulnerable, put your guard down, right? Be authentic and genuine in that origin story, then it's going to help your audience also meet you halfway and say, hey, listen, I'm also vulnerable. I'm also in a position where I feel weak and I need help. And you are going to help me to get there. I'm going to buy in. I'm going to come and I'm going to see what you have to say. So couple phrases you can say. I struggled. I took massive action. I succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. I realized I needed help. I hit rock bottom, right? Those types of intro transitions can really help you get vulnerable. So let's talk about now those 3 secrets. The 3 secrets are really going to be the easy way to get from point A to point B. So if the title of your webinar is how to save 50% more on taxes every single year without being, head down in paperwork or learning the tax loopholes, right? That is going to be, if I'm on the webinar, I'm in a position where I've paid more in taxes than I want to pay. And at the end of the day, I want to pay less in taxes, but I don't want to spend all this time and energy researching or feeling like I have to, get so heavy and deep into paperwork and loopholes. So, these 3 secrets are going to be these big discoveries that are going to help me overcome my limiting beliefs. And this is something too that, guys like Tony Robbins talk a lot about. People have false beliefs, and until they eliminate these false beliefs, they're never going to actually get to the step where they can feel like they can make a change or make a difference. So you really have to smash the false beliefs that they have. The way that I like to think about it is if you were to take your ideal prospect and you were to write every single objection or every single issue or false limiting belief that they might have, and you were to number it 1 through 100 on a piece of paper, you don't have 100 different types of limiting beliefs. Essentially, the problems and challenges and false beliefs that your prospect has are going to fall into 3 categories. And the 3 secrets are going to coincide with each one of these 3 categories. So the first one that we're going to talk about is what I like to call the vehicle. So the vehicle is going to be related to the thing itself, your system or your process. If you're teaching somebody about maybe a really cool business opportunity, I've got a client of mine, for example, who teaches people how to broker auto deals. So he's an auto broker. So his vehicle is related to auto brokerage in itself. So everything that he talks about in that first secret is proving to people that auto brokerage is a legitimate opportunity. It's a lucrative career. It's got legs. It's a scalable opportunity. It's something that you can do without having any previous education or credentials, right? You can get into that space pretty quickly and easily. There's little barriers to entry. So all of those limiting beliefs that people might have that fall under the vehicle are going to coincide with that secret. So if I, for example, take my client, his offer, let's say I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking for a blue ocean opportunity that could potentially make me, an extra $50,000 a month if I were to scale it. Well, I would think, auto brokerage isn't maybe the way to do it. There's not enough volume. There's not enough demand. I might be bound by people in my local market. What if I live in a rural area? Like I have all of these limiting beliefs, right? So the first one that we have to smash is proving that the opportunity or that vehicle is legitimate. Once we do that, then we're ready to move on to the second secret or the second limiting belief that people might have. And I call this internal. So, that's exactly what happens as human beings. Once we're proven, once we can see the evidence for something, right? We can see that something could be really good and we believe in it. We just naturally think, oh, well, I can't do it. Or, I don't have that experience, or I don't have that background, or I'm, maybe don't have the money or the time or the energy to do something like that. Those are all internal beliefs that we're now doubting ourselves. That, hey, we believe in the vehicle. We think that thing could actually work, but now we're doubting that we could ever get in a rural area. So the key is to, smash those roadblocks, get people to show people how easy it really could be to buy in, and you can kind of overcome all of those limiting beliefs that they might have. Now, the third limiting belief and the third secret is what I call external. And once we buy into the thing, we see that it's a legitimate opportunity. We now can see that, hey, I can do it. I can actually see how I could make this happen, how I could use this. Naturally, what happens now is we say, well, wait a second, hang on, let me pump the brakes, because there's all these things outside of my control that I don't have my hand on the reins. So what about all of those things? So that's when we address those external beliefs. It could be, outside relationships. It could be, market trends. It could be customers. It could be a lack of, resources or geographical confinement in an area. Like, oh, well, I believe in this. I see that this could work. I know I can make it work, but I maybe just don't live in the right area, right? That would be a really, I'd say, common external limiting belief that people have. So once we smash those, right, the key is to smash those external beliefs. Now there's literally nothing standing in the way. There should be nothing standing in the way of our prospect. They should see that I bought in. I can see that the vehicle, the thing that you're teaching, this opportunity, it works. I can see how it's a viable solution for the problem that I have. I can see that I can actually do it. I believe in myself to be able to do it. And I can see that there's no external beliefs that would be holding me back either. So at this point in time on the webinar, on your presentation, you are now perfectly primed to introduce your offer. And once again, going back to the origin story, it's kind of a little bit of a microcosm of this theme and idea that there's a hard way and there's an easy way. But once you show your 3 secrets, you should give enough meat, enough insight and information for people to be like, okay, if I really wanted to go and figure this out and invest a ton of time and energy and resources, I could now do it. I have this new insight. I have this new belief system in myself and in this vehicle that this could work. And I could potentially make this work if I worked hard enough. But you want to introduce the easier way. The easier way is going to be, let me take care of all of the hassle, all of the headache for you. And let me introduce my offer, my product on a little silver platter that's going to allow you to get to where you want to go or get your result 10 times faster, for example, than what it would take for you to go and do it all yourself. So a couple things with that offer stack is there's a lot of things that might seem redundant or repetitive in the offer stack. But the key is that you have to introduce it multiple times because a lot of people only remember the last thing that they heard. So when you stack your offer, when you stack your course and your product, the value that you're creating, it allows you to continue to add more and more things into the mix and get them to a point where they have this cost that they're willing to invest in your product or service. And there's this like scale mentally where you need to get it to tip. So as you continue to stack the offer and the value, it helps to solidify and get to a point where that cost now outweighs the value of your product and service outweighs the cost to actually purchase it. If you were just to say, okay, great, well, here's the easy way. Here it is. Here's my program. It's going to be $10,000. Here's the link to go buy. People were like kind of almost taken off guard. And they're like, well, wait a second. Let me think about it. I actually don't really understand everything that I'm getting. And initially I'm going to have those walls just put up that I don't want to spend $10,000. I don't want to invest even $2,000. So, I see that your opportunity is great. I've seen that you've sold me that, like you've taught me this, and helped me smash my limiting beliefs, but I still don't know what I'm getting. So you want to introduce line item by line item or bonus by bonus with an associated price tag on it and introduce the value and the benefit, what they're going to learn, what they're going to get as a result of it, so that they can just kind of grasp and see little by little the value. And then if you do that correctly, that $10,000 price tag isn't going to seem so overwhelming. So that's one thing that I have seen kind of common mistakes on some webinars. People are afraid to, really say what they're going to get and lay it out and say, this is actually worth this, because they feel maybe scared to pitch. They feel uncomfortable. They feel like they don't know necessarily how to close. So the offer stack is a good way for you to kind of just take a breather and say, no, like, I believe in this. I truly know that this is worth this value, and introduce it in a way that your consumer, an ideal prospect, can now grasp it little by little and kind of come up to speed with you. Now, on the flip side of that, you guys have probably all seen webinars where people take way too much time to kind of go through the offer stack. And they're like, come on, get to the point. I get it. I want to see what this is worth now. That's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. And, there might be really inflated pricing and value on certain things. Like if they say, hey, as part of this product, you're going to get, this ebook that's going to teach you how to, the top 10 business loopholes for taxes. And if they were to place like a $30,000 value on that ebook, now it kind of actually hurts them because that ebook's not really worth $30,000. No one ever actually paid $30,000 for that ebook. So mentally as a consumer, I've got my guard up thinking, well, what is this actually worth? Is this product he's selling me actually worth what he says it is? Because all of this value is totally inflated. So you want to make sure that the associated value that you're saying your line items and your product are worth are actually worth that. Or, if it's something that you've never charged for before, you have something to base that value off of. Maybe you've done previous consulting or sold a previous course before at a certain price, or you see that other people and other competitors in your space are charging that price for something that's similar, or maybe you even purchased a product or invested a certain amount of money into learning that skill that you then compiled. That would be a great way to show value. If you actually invested, $300 into a couple different books that you read to learn those loopholes, and then you created an ebook that you just condensed that knowledge and information, that would actually be at least a $300 value, because that's what you paid to learn that skill. And for them to recreate that or duplicate your knowledge and skill set, they would have to go do the same thing and spend that same money. So that's kind of some of the keys to the offer stack. I know it's kind of tough. We don't have an example right now. I'm not like showing you a webinar and what that would look like. So it's kind of tough for me to show you kind of what that would all look like. But if you guys watch Terry's Modern Coaching Method webinar, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to, in the way that she stacks the offer and the value, introduces the price, and then closes. And then, step number 5, we have a bunch of these closing techniques. So this is where, if there are any other hidden objections or roadblocks that prospects may have, this is where you would address those and where you would really get, I would say, strategic in the way that you can overcome those objections. So a couple of my favorite ones, I call it the "if all this did" slide. So after you introduce your total product, everyone sees the value. They see that the total value of everything in there, what that number is, and they don't know yet what the price of the course is. So before I actually will go in and show the value or show the real price for what I'm going to charge, I'll have a little break where I say, all right, now before I actually go to show you what the true value or what I'm going to charge you for all of this product is, I want to ask you a couple of questions. And I'm asking the prospect to essentially qualify themselves. And if you answer yes to any of these questions, then you're a great fit for the program. If you don't answer a resounding yes to any of these questions, then you're probably not a good fit, and you can basically spare yourself the expense of investing into my product. So then I will list out 3 questions. If by joining my program, all this did was blank, and I will fill in something that's related to the vehicle. So if all this did was help you realize that there's a better way to do your taxes, would this be worth it to you? Right? That would be related to that vehicle example that I gave you guys earlier. Then I'll list the second question. If all this did was blank, this is going to be related to the internal beliefs. So if all this did was, help you save more money in taxes every single year without fail, no matter how much money you make or how many expenses you might have in your business, would it be worth it for you? And I'll list out a third question related to the external beliefs. So if all this did by joining my program was to help you decrease your chances of getting a tax audit, right? That might be external. You can't control who's getting audited and whatnot, but you can control and reduce your liability. Would that be worth it to you? And if you answer yes to any of those questions, then you're a good fit for the program. And then I will go and actually reveal the price. So that's one of the great closing technique slides that works really well, because people are now justifying the value, because it would be worth it to me, because then I could potentially, save a lot of money in my taxes year over year over year. And I can make a lot of money by, this course would pay for itself 10 times over. Those are the types of conversations that you want your prospects to be having at the end of your offer stack and as you go into your closing slides. You want them to start to justify the value and see, oh yeah, no, this would make sense because it could pay for itself, or this is a marginal expense in the grand scheme of things if I can actually learn and accomplish that skill or get to where I want to be through this product. Another one that I like to do is I like to do price comparisons. So you can take other equal price products or services, do a price comparison, and you want to do a crazy juxtaposition. So for you to go out and hire a personal tax accountant and, sit down, they charge $200 an hour, blah, blah, blah. It would cost you this much money. So you either pay this much money to go and like have some guy do it for you and teach it to you line item by line item, or you can spend this money, invest in the program and learn it yourself, learn that skill. So that's an example of a price comparison, and creating just like a huge juxtaposition between like, that's a total no-brainer. I don't want to go do that, invest that money into that. That's not as valuable or, effective as would be just getting this service, getting this product. Another one that I like to do is like, the dumbest thing. So this is a little bit more aggressive. If you like to be aggressive and that's your personality, then you can try the dumbest thing. So you can say, now the dumbest thing for you to do would be to try to go and do it all on your own, right? And you can actually stack, once again, all of the costs associated with learning and kind of reverse engineering your product. Another one that I have is I like to use is I call it the now you have two choices. So the now you have two choices is basically after the end of the day, you say, listen, you have two choices. You can either, take a small investment in yourself, learn this skill, and potentially have all of this upside, or you can sit here, do nothing, and stay where you're at, or even maybe try to do it on your own and invest way more time, energy, money, and resources to trying to accomplish those things on your own. So giving them just the two choices, in reality, they have a lot of choices. They have way more than two choices, but by giving them two choices, it immediately puts them into a place where you're right. I do have two choices. I can either invest in this and I can kind of take a leap of faith and, purchase your program, or I can sit back and do nothing. And, you want to basically lay out those two different choices and make them realize that by getting your program, it's by far the best choice. And if you do have a great product or service, like I know you all do, then by not getting the credit card of your consumer, you're really doing them a disservice. And that's the type of, if you can't actually say that, you don't actually believe that, then you're in a really tough spot and you shouldn't be selling your program. So you want to make sure that you are in a place where you can close and say these things with confidence, truly believing it, knowing that, hey, my program is going to seriously help these people out. It's going to save them tons of time and energy and resources. Another thing that you can do is you can bring up a guarantee, eliminate any risk that you might have. Bringing up a guarantee is a great closing technique because you're essentially getting rid of anything that might be holding them back. So, people I've seen before have really aggressive guarantees. They'll have like 110% money back guarantee. I've seen other people that don't have any guarantees at all. But if you want to include a guarantee, now would be the great time to do it. Another one that I like is this thing called the real question. So the real question is, if you do nothing, where will you be? So you talk about if you, take those two different choices, if you actually take action, where do you see yourself in the future? So you're trying to get your prospect to, create an outcome for themselves where they're seeing themselves in the future with your product and that product being kind of the way to get to where they want to be. And then, this is actually part of the Q&A session that I do sometimes, but, you say, well, this all sounds great, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this problem? So this can just be an ongoing kind of transition into a Q&A session where you just overcome and take away all of the ammo that your prospects might have. And essentially, you're just getting rid of every single roadblock and helping them realize that there really is no risk. This is the way to go. And for them to get to where they want to be, you have the way to get them there. So I know we're talking about a lot. I have in this worksheet, I'm actually going to, link to this. You guys can actually take this and make a copy of it and go in here and fill in these things and help you kind of create your own outline and then kind of create your own webinar. Using this strategy and this methodology that I've created. But essentially, that's it. That's the webinar. It's 5 steps. It's very simple. When you understand those limiting beliefs and you really create a powerful origin story, it just kind of sets everything up and it just tees it all up. Everything else is kind of fluff, right? The way that you take the time to maybe invest in your presentation, all that other stuff is fluff. I've seen people that just have a white background and black words, and they really hit the content and they're really crystal clear on what they need to say. what those limiting beliefs are and what those secrets are. And they've got a great offer stack and they believe in their product and it sells like crazy. And I've seen other people that spend a ton of money on designers and graphics and flow charts, and they try to throw it into a webinar and they never truly understand the foundation and, you know, these keys in a webinar, and it just flops. And they're like, I don't understand why. It just, you know, I spent so much money on it and I did all of this. So this really is the foundation. And if you guys can grasp it, then this is going to be, you know, the way that you can build all your webinars out ongoing in the future. So anyways, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I will also link to this atomic sheet, and you guys can go in there, make a copy, and, you know, go through this, have this for your personal records, and literally come down here and you can lay out the opportunity, the vehicle, the background. What was your epiphany moment? What's the big payoff? You know, what is the vehicle? What's the secret? How are you going to smash their limiting belief that they have? How do you break and reframe that? What points are you going to talk about on the secret? So if you come out here and literally start filling this out, this is really going to help you get started with your webinar presentation. So anyways, there we are.
Wow. I mean, holy wow. You gave so much value. I want to address a couple things that are really important, and we're getting, you know, all kinds of thank yous and great work, and everyone is super appreciative. I want to tell you that I was trained, you know, in Russell Bronson's, I was trained in Frank Kern's, I was trained in Joel Bauer's, I could name like 20 other people. And until I worked with you and we really worked on this atomic, all the others had a lot of, and I don't mean to diss, however, for me, it was fluffy in terms of you got to spend hours and hours having these templates, and these PowerPoints have to be these perfect, magnificent things. And I find with my client family members, a lot of them are so caught up in creating these PowerPoints that they miss the content of the webinar. And they're not really following this kind of a methodology. And then they're like, well, I do the webinar and not that many people are taking action. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes all of these webinars begin to sound alike because they're all following Russell Bronson or Joe Bauer, whoever. And there's like so many people following the same thing, and they're really not customizing it. So I can tell at the beginning of a webinar presentation who trained them, like within 5 minutes.
Totally. Absolutely.
Right? So here's what I love about the way we're doing this in the atomic way is that it's, Velma says, this is great, Velma. She says, I have to put this up there. Look good without content, lipstick on a pig. I love that.
That's true.
And the truth is there is a flow to this, and it is logical, and it thinks the way people think. So, you know, as a business consultant who also happens to be a clinical psychologist, I'm always looking at the underneath of things, and the underneath of this, in my estimation, is really what makes it work so well. So I want to, first of all, I want to thank you because you went so deep and you're so amazing. And then giving people the worksheet is quite a gift. What if somebody, you know, is like me and says, well, I want your help. And I want to actually learn this in more detail. Is there a way that they can do that? Because I was lucky enough to be able to do that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would say is I'm totally happy to look at your offer. I do have my own program that I'm now selling, the Atomic program, where I take everything and help you guys learn all this stuff. Actually, a couple of students here are already in. Sandy is in. Denise is in. They're getting started today on it. So, you know, what we could do is simply, if you guys are interested in learning more, let's schedule a 15-minute consultation call and just talk about your offer, where you're at, seeing where your obstacles are, seeing, you know, where you're at with your webinar, and be completely honest with you. If I don't think I can help you, or I'm not the guy, I'm going to totally just point you in the direction of where I think you can go. I've got a lot of contacts, a lot of guys that I look up to and use in my own business that I can provide some value. So if you guys want to hop on a call, I'm totally happy to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we'll make sure we drop a link, or what do you want them to do if they want to get on a call? How do you want to do that?
Yeah. So just actually comment Atomic below and I'll send you a PM. I'll just PM you with my Calendly link.
Okay, gang, so you all get that. So if you want some time with Tanner, the word is atomic. Just put that in the comments below, and then he'll PM you his calendar link. And we're going to get the worksheet, Tanner, as well, all of us.
Yes. So after this, I'm going to go ahead and send the link, and Terry can copy and paste it and pin it to the top of the post.
I will definitely do that. I have to tell you that I'm really grateful for you to come and give us this much time again. The first time you came, I got so much incredible feedback, and people were just, I want more, I want more. And so I know you're very busy. I know you have had a lot going on in the last few weeks, and you're in the middle of some personal things, and yet here you are showing up as you always do. I appreciate it so much. Does anybody have any questions before we sign off? I see mostly thank yous. People talking about how valuable this has been. Sandy says, looking forward to the link. Yeah, I agree with that. And again, the word that you want to drop in is the word atomic. The word is atomic. And then Tanner, and just so you all know, Tanner is not the type who does the sales pitch in disguise. Tanner will literally see if he can help you, talk you through your webinar. And then if he's not the guy, he can connect you with so many different people or resources. So if Tanner's offering 15 minutes of your time, trust me, I would jump on that, because not very many people create as much value as Tanner does. And I truly mean that. That's been my experience. Anybody?
Awesome. Thanks, Terry.
Oh, it's true. Any last minute things you want to share, Tanner, and any quick questions from the folks who are with us?
Yeah, let's just open it up for Q&A. I mean, I booked out an hour, so we got 19 minutes technically if you guys want to ask me questions.
Yeah, really, gang, don't miss this. Like, you're here, we're interacting. This is, like a live webinar. So if you have questions, let's ask. I appreciate all the thank yous that we're getting. No one has a question. You're all like, oh yeah, I can go build out my webinar, or you have webinars running and they're perfect. So that's what I'm assuming. So if you don't ask us questions, we have no idea where you need help, either on creating your webinar or on making one that you currently have running better. And I know some of my client family members are in the middle of getting their webinars out there. So none of you have questions. You're all like, oh yeah, my webinar is bringing in tons of money every day. Sandy has your course.
Yeah, Sandy bought the course, so she'll get everything more on the inside.
Here we go. Someone has a question. I don't know who you are, because you didn't give the Facebook permission, StreamYard permission to use your name, so I apologize. It says, what do you think about the number of bonuses that should be offered?
Yeah, so good question. I mean, people have all sorts of bonuses laid out sometimes. Other people just don't have anything. So I actually would do this. So there's kind of two approaches. People can say, hey, listen, this program is everything that I have, everything I've learned. This is my entire system, and I'm giving it to you all. This is it. I call it the kitchen sink. So I'm giving you everything and the kitchen sink, right? There's some other people that are like, well, do the bonuses really help me get to where I'm needed? If so, do they need to be included kind of in the main core curriculum of your offer? If so, then as a bonus, they seem like they kind of hurt. So I would throw in bonuses that are not necessarily related to the curriculum or the content, but that are, hey, listen, I'm going to throw in an extra hour consulting call, or you're going to get extra 6-month access to the program. We're going to pay for 6 months, but as a bonus, I'm going to give you an extra 6 months of this. So it's things that you can offer that are additional value that don't actually directly result them getting from point A to point B. Because then it's like, well, wait a second. I thought that I was going to already get to my end goal with your core product. Now you're offering me all these bonuses. It sounds like I would have needed those. So I've just found that offer as many bonuses as you possibly can offer in line with that strategy. Give them more value. Don't give them any more curriculum or things that they would need to get to point A to point B. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope it does.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks for the thorough answer. And Regina says, I am launching my September 7th through 10-week program. She's thinking about doing a live free webinar this month, so in August, to promote it. And she's asking, do you think that's a good way to promote it?
In my opinion, that's the only way to promote it. Here's the reason why. What are your two options? You have evergreen webinar, sorry, and you've got a live webinar. You can never take anything evergreen because you don't understand your KPIs. So as you're doing a bunch of live webinars and a series of them, not only are you getting feedback in real time from people that are attending, you're getting, questions. Like you guys are asking me questions right now that I can, next time I maybe do a presentation like this, take into account, hopefully answer better during the presentation. You need to understand what your costs are going to be. So how much do I have to spend? How much, is it going to cost for me to get somebody on that webinar, so that you can then afterwards, after selling it and validating it once again, you're getting paid to create the course, and then you can take it evergreen. So you have to do live webinars. There are other things you can do too. You can do, like a lot of people do, like, YouTube channels, and they create a lot of content, a lot of free content giveaways, and that will lead into the webinar registration. So Velma here asked a question: how frequently should you do live webinars as you lead up to your product or program? So I have seen typically it takes about 4 live webinars. If you do it, with real intention and you're focused on it, and you get a good number of people on those webinars, you should be able to validate it, sell it, get paid to then create your product and your service that you're selling to people, and then turn it evergreen afterwards. So if you do a webinar, once a week or once every 2 weeks, that's just literally going to be, how long it takes. So if you did 4 webinars, it'd be a month. If you did a week spaced out, if you did 4 live webinars with 2 weeks spaced out, it'd be 2 months. Really, totally depends on how much money, how much time you want to have to get people on the webinar, how much money you're going to invest in the ads and the marketing to get people on it.
Perfect. That was a great answer. Perfect. Any other questions? Some of you have been on Modern Coaching webinar with me back in May, and some of you were on a couple of weeks ago, and you'll notice, we're walking our talk here. There were tweaks to the webinar. Yes, I work with Tanner. Yes, I have an atomic webinar. Yes, I follow his direction, and 100%. We made some tweaks based upon the first webinar. And when we do it again, or when we automate it down the road, it's always looking at the KPIs and it's always tweaking. So definitely this is very, very helpful. Who else? What other questions?
David York asked a question. He said, your turning point, your breakthrough. David, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Please go ahead and re-ask the question. I want to make sure I answer your question there.
Yeah, and David, you also prior to that said, who did you go with Atomic? Not sure exactly what you mean by both of those. So the turning point and who did you go with Atomic? There are folks here who are already in Tanner's Atomic course, and so some of them were talking about that, I believe.
Yeah.
All right.
And Velma, great comment here. She said, bonuses, gifts that are true gifts versus hiding your content in the bonuses. Exactly. You want to give bonuses as gifts, not like hiding extra content in the bonuses. It just doesn't seem real authentic when you do that. So
let's see. Velma's saying, I think he wants to know Tanner's turning point that had him do the program he's doing.
Oh, he's asking when is Atomic? So I practice what I preach. Let me be completely transparent with you, David. I did a little live call with Terry, with her inner circle members, her clients, about, was it 4 weeks ago, Terry?
Yep, something like that.
And I taught everyone the system. We did a case study on Terry's modern coaching method that we just did. And I sold my first people into the program. So I had a couple people jumped in, and then I said, hey, I haven't created the course yet, so I'm going to take the next, 3 weeks to create it. And I literally, kind of finished it last night. And the people who purchased are getting access to it today. So my personal breakthrough to creating the Atomic webinar, my personal breakthrough is this. I was forced to figure it out. I was absolutely 100% forced to figure it out. And I invested a ton of time and energy personally into all of these programs. So when you say Frank Kern and Russell Brunson and all these guys, that's what I did. But as I implemented exactly what they did for, other clients and for other people, I was like, I'm doing exactly what they're saying, and I'm not getting the results. There's something that's missing here. And so what I started to do is I started to just kind of put my personal spin on things. I would take my client and I'd say, hey, listen, we're going to take this with a grain of salt. This is all great, but we're getting into the space where we're focusing on, the design and what needs to come next. It's like a very regimented thing versus actually understanding your prospect, understanding what they need to hear, what they want to accomplish, the problems and challenges that they're facing. And so I kind of just simplified everything, to be honest with you, David. I kind of just took a step back and then came up with this system and have since implemented it. And no two atomic webinars are the same because all of my clients are different. All the webinars are different. All the audiences are different, but it really does help to connect and speak better with the audience, I found. So hopefully that answers your question.
I think that looks good. Let's see. Any other questions, gang? Anybody else? Any questions, any comments, any additional feedback? David says, perfect, Tanner. So we answered his question, which is good.
Awesome.
Great, David. Who else? Anybody else? You all feel completely ready? Like, oh,
I'm not seeing very many people comment atomic down there, Terry. I'm feeling kind of bad about myself. I thought you guys would want to talk to me a little bit more, but hey, it's okay. I get it.
Let me make
We're all busy here.
I get that you're all busy. I get there's a million things going on. If you don't seriously accept 15 minutes of Tanner's time to take a look at your webinar, to talk to you about your prospective webinar, as far as I'm concerned, it's like throwing money in the garbage can. And
Regina did. Looking forward to talking to you, Regina. That'll be great.
Good job, Regina. It's really, if somebody, I really want to make this clear for my client family members and everyone that's a entrepreneur and any business owner. Sandy's like, atomic, atomic, atomic. The truth of the matter is, I always believe that the resources show up in front of us. Okay. I totally believe that. And sometimes, do it now, Regina and Denise. Sometimes people are showing up in front of us and we're not paying any attention. And then you go, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. Like the resource was right in front of you. You have to say yes. So Ed, I'm glad you jumped in and said yes here. I really want people to understand that if I bring someone to you, and I don't bring a whole lot of people here, I bring people that I know, that are more than vetted, that are the best of the best, and the people either on my team or that I work with and that I personally invest in. So I'm bringing you the best of the best. David says, what an incredible thing for us. Yes, and it's incredible for Tanner to offer, 15 minutes of his time. So I want to thank you, Tanner, for the generosity, and for everyone who didn't write in atomic and it's sort of like a lurker. I'm not sure why you're held back or what holds you back. I can honestly tell you, because I've opened my heart and my mind and had 15-minute conversations. Some of those have led to the most miraculous things in my business. So just as an FYI, Sandy says Tanner is a genius.
Oh, Sandy, that's too kind. I don't know about that. I'm just a guy, normal dude with some long hair that needs a haircut.
In your areas of business, you are a genius, right? So whether it's Facebook ads or atomic courses or atomic webinars, Tanner, I agree with you, a genius. And, Sandy and Denise and Velma, all of you, I'm in alignment. Trust the universe. There is a reason that you showed up and that Tanner showed up. It works that way. Ken says, have no doubt I'll be working with Tanner very soon. Would it still be worth time to talk?
Absolutely. Ken, yes. Comment atomic down below. Would love to hop on a call with you. It'd be great.
Good. And I know, Ed, we're all eager for the PDF. So
so you know what? It's not a PDF. It's actually a Google Doc. So I'm going to basically take this link right here and we can paste this in here.
Awesome.
You would just need to make a copy to it and add it to your own Google Drive. And once you do that, then Terry, I don't know who I'm chatting this to. Chat with the host and other guests. I'm just gonna. That's the link to the document. Okay. So if you click on that link, that's gonna really help to.
They don't see that. It's in the private chat, and I cannot publicly chat a link. So Tanner, if you'll go in and just put this in the Facebook Live after we've posted it. So gang, you're going to come back. Good. We've got people in there for Atomic now. If you will all come back to this live and just check, the link will be dropped in and you will see the link. I have another meeting, but I'll be back later too to make sure it's in there, and I'll pin this as an announcement so you'll all see it.
Perfect. Well, awesome, guys. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you. Hope
Thanks,
this was valuable.
everyone. We appreciate you, Tanner. Thank you for coming. Thanks for those of you who asked questions, who chatted. And next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I have Regina as a very special guest, so be here. All right. Thanks, Tanner. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. See you
Bye for
guys.
now.